The press in the Down Beach Current were notified of this meeting. A copy of same was posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building. Would you take a second, turn off all electronic equipment, and we will stand for the flag salute. Attention, salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Tom, would you call the roll, please?
You told me not to do it. Follow me. Mr. Becker.
Here.
Mr. Blumberg.
Here.
Mr. Hawley.
Here.
On the agenda for, there's quite a few items for discussion. Brenda, you ready? You're at the top of the list.
Okay.
You have 2 items.
Maybe we could do Sustainable Margate first, since Monica's here, and then if Monica Coffey, she's our chairperson of our new green team called Sustainable Margate. We are the fortunate recipients of a $2,000 grant from the state to help get this program off the ground, and our team has spoken with one of the professors in charge of sustainability at Stockton, and there's a student for his senior project and 2 other students that are interested in preparing a municipal carbon footprint for us. And they're asking for a $2,000 stipend. Now, I could take it out of the Public Works budget and do it by purchase order, but we thought, since we received this grant, why don't we take $1,000 from the grant and $1,000 from the Public Works Department and use that to pay these Stockton students. And what's special about this carbon footprint is it's going to give us a bar so that we can measure our successes, and will help with future grant requests. And Monica's here, which, Monica, did you want to add anything else to what I said?
I think
Would you come to the microphone?
Want to come over to the microphone? And does Monica need to give her name and her street address?
Absolutely, yes. Please.
my name,
Your name and address, please.
Monica Coffey, 16 North Fredericksburg Avenue.
Thank you.
So I think Brenda did a good job of summarizing what we want to accomplish. Actually, the work that the Stockton students would undertake would go beyond a municipal carbon footprint and actually give us more of a community carbon footprint. So rather than just looking at municipal operations and fleet and energy usage for the town, they would expand their research and try to gather that data for homeowners as well. So it's a more complete picture than just a municipal carbon footprint. But one of the prerequisites is an energy audit of all municipal buildings, which Fred has taken care of, and that's been completed, so that gives us a big head start. So, so we're excited. As long as the town is supportive of the partnership, we're excited to get started and move forward with Stockton.
Thank you.
And I think it's my understanding that we need to do a resolution to just accept this grant award into our budget, and that can or cannot doesn't, we can do it today if you wish, or we can put it on the agenda for the next meeting. But if it's okay with Mayor Becker and Commissioner Blumberg, I'd like to move forward with that.
Yeah, I just had one or two questions. I spoke to Monica today earlier, and I had some questions. She got back to me, but we missed each other. Did we determine that this is a grant in the name of the City of Margate?
Yes.
It's not the sustainable team or...
Correct. It's actually going to be mailed out tomorrow, and it'll be to the city in care of Lisa.
Okay, so, and it's a $2,000 grant.
Correct.
Lisa, do we have to amend the budget, or is it small enough that it's part of our overall matching grants or whatever?
You could do it two ways, and it was also discussed with Leon. So we could do it at the date that we adopt the budget, or we could do a Chapter 159 resolution afterwards.
Okay, and then the other question I had was the amendment tonight that will be reflecting or let me back up. You said that Sustainable Jersey did indeed approve and say it was okay to divert or to utilize this money for the Stockton students.
Yes, when I originally put together the budget for the grant, we hadn't had any discussions with Stockton. This wasn't even on the radar. So once it came up, I contacted Sustainable Jersey and asked if they would allow us to revise our budget to fund at least part of the project through the grant. And I sent that up today, and they replied that it was approved.
Okay, and
And a copy was sent to Tom and to all of us.
I hope I had your right email. Yes, I did copy it.
okay, and that was the next thing. As I said the other day, the clerk's office is the keeper of the records. We're supposed to have them, and any future amendments, changes,
Yes,
because we didn't really
absolutely.
have much on this.
It's been, I
In writing.
apologize,
No, that's not, I'm not looking for
because
you.
it's been a learning process for
Right.
me, and trying to navigate, and, the commission form of government is new for me, so if I've made any mistakes, I do apologize.
No, there's no mistakes, no
Okay.
mistakes. We just need to make sure we have everything, and we'd like to, if we have, like tonight, an amendment, nobody's fault, it was last minute, but it'd be nice to be able to let everybody know back Monday or Tuesday that this was coming, and here's what it's for, it's approved, and all that. There's a lot of unclear information earlier in the week.
Well, hopefully, by including you on our email list, Tom, you will...
Yes.
That won't happen again.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Sorry, I thought it was discussed at staff because, all right,
Thank you, Monica. Good.
Okay. The next thing I wanted to bring up was an email that we all got. It was banning smoking on the beach. And I'm just putting it out there. I guess 10, 15 years ago when someone would bring this up or smoking at outdoor restaurants, I would be like, but it's outside. But I think the culture has changed so much that I'm hearing more and more that people are bothered by the secondhand smoke on the beach. And not only that, but the littering of the cigarette butts and cigar butts and whatnot are a real problem. I have a list of beaches in New Jersey that ban smoking, and some other information, detailing the fact that the number one problem is the cigarette butt. So I'm just putting it out there as for discussion to think about to Mayor Becker and Commissioner Blumberg.
Anything else?
Nope, that's all.
Okay. Thank you, Brenda. Who's handling the next item, which is the South Jersey Gas Municipal Consent Ordinance for 2014?
That's myself, and along with Mr. Abbott. They sent us a while back a municipal consent ordinance. It's basically a franchise order, whatever you want to call it, something along those lines that we always had them in the past with Comcast. And you had to have hearings and all that type of stuff but they're unregulated. In this case, Scott, you can correct me where I'm wrong or add on that it's a BPU requirement. Everybody more or less has to do it. I know you had one question about one of the words or whatever, but jump in. The water's warm.
I didn't like the idea that it was exclusive, the word exclusive, because I thought maybe, I don't know why they put the word exclusive. Other than that, by law, we have to give consent for the gas company to run their gas lines in our municipal streets. And I suspect we all want to keep our gas heat, so we better give them the consent to have those gas lines to deliver our gas heat.
And unlike Comcast, where over the years we've been able to get certain concessions or free cable lines run for the schools or for free cable, that because they're unregulated, we can do that. In this case, because the gas companies are regulated utility, we're not allowed to do that type of bartering. It's a 50-year, Scott, I believe it's a 50-year.
That's exactly right. It's 50 years. The last one, I believe, was in the late 40s.
Right.
So we're overdue. Gas company came to us. And the only other thing, and Ed, you might want to chime in on this, we had talked maybe about some kind of an ordinance, but we already have that, about how they tear up our streets when they replace a line.
Yes.
But that's separate. That really is not a part of this consent to allow gas lines to be maintained in the streets. So, yeah, my recommendation is certainly adopt this ordinance, and be in compliance with state law.
You're correct, all of the restoration has to be enforced through our street opening ordinance.
And they have been fairly decent, Ed, the last year or two? Because I haven't heard, usually we go like 2 or 3 years, and then all of a sudden we start getting locked, or are we having problems, or?
We go in cycles, and we yell and scream, and then
Right.
they come and they're good.
Right.
And so we'll just continue to try to shorten that cycle up.
Okay. Thank you, Tom. Next item is July 4th fireworks. Tom, you and
I'll defer to Tony.
Tony?
I think it's at 5 o'clock, isn't it?
Okay, Mayor. The Margate, at our staff meetings, we've already met several times on this subject, and this is the results of our meetings. First of all, Margate City is working in cooperation with the Margate Mothers Association. In fact, we have another meeting scheduled for this coming Monday where we're going to meet again with their representatives and several department heads and probably the clerk and the fire official to finalize our plans. We're in the process of getting proposals for the fireworks this year, which is a necessary legal contract that we're going to have for the city by doing that. That'll assure that. Also, because of the high demand and unavailability of barges this year, we will be returning to a beach shoot for the year 2014 on July 4th, as usual. I do want to state, though, this does not mean that the possibility for a barge shoot is not, it's not possible in the future. It is indeed possible. The staff still believes that a barge shoot properly planned ahead of time can ultimately be safer, bigger and better, and not disruptive to the beach on July 4th. As you know, we have to close.
Where?
We have to close a large section of beach on July 4th, and we wouldn't have to do that. So that's about it. If Dave or Tom had anything to say about that, we are moving ahead and things are looking good.
Good.
Chief,
Yes.
just so I understand, prior to last year, the Margate Mothers funded the fireworks except for the city employees that we had working overtime duty to monitor and protect, correct?
Yes.
Fully funded by the Margate Mothers for as long as we've had fireworks, until last year.
As far as I know, yes.
Something changed last year,
Right.
and we ended up paying some $20,000 for the barge. Because for whatever the figure is, for some reason, we went to the barge and ended up paying for the barge. My question is, and I think that we really did a pretty good job in prior years of working to limit the section of beach that we closed off. So hopefully this year we'll do the same thing, because I remember years where the whole beach was closed and you had to walk up over the bulkhead, just 2 years ago it wasn't that way. We worked out a section so that you could go walk up into the high sand and not have to go off the beach. My question is, will the Margate Mothers be funding the fireworks again this year? Is that the goal?
Well, the goal is for them
Because they did a great job. They did a great job of fundraising. They did a great job of advertising. And we should want to work back to that, I think.
They probably...
Chief shared some information with us about one of your last meetings with the fireworks.
Who did? I'm sorry.
Chief David Wolfson. Sorry, there's two chiefs at the table. I think, I understand we're talking about doing beach fireworks again, and the Margate Mothers is going to continue to do the fundraising, right? Now, here's my question I'd like to throw out, too. Margate Mothers is not a 501c3, so when they make contributions, they're not tax deductible, but I think the city, if Roy Goldberg were to write, if they were to write a check to the city instead, I think it would be tax deductible, and Leon's here, he could answer us. And I'm thinking that if those fundraising letters came from the city instead of Margate Mothers, maybe it would help the fundraising efforts altogether.
Yeah, but then I don't think we would get the money. I think that people would be less inclined to donate to the city. They're going to say, hey, well, what's the city?
Yeah, that's
city
a good
can't
point.
afford
Unless the letter came from
sponsor
both.
the fireworks.
These are issues that the staff spoke about. What was the best way to approach this? Out of our last meeting, we came to the conclusion that it would be better for them to ask for the funds for fundraising.
And I agree, and I just want to say, I think we should be hugging, kissing, and thanking the Margate Mothers from now until the end of eternity for the great job that they do fundraising and putting this fireworks show on. And I feel bad that something happened that, that relationship seemingly was soured last year. And I thank you for mending that fence. I really do, because that's a great organization.
Commissioner, if I may, regarding the purchase of the barge, Chief Tabasso and I got together, as well as the other department heads last year, regarding the barge, and we discussed it, and basically it was a wash, for lack of better terms, between the purchase of the barge and overtime for city employees. Right. So it didn't cost the city any additional money that I know of. Correct, Tom?
Correct.
It was a wash, but it was our idea.
It's close.
It was close. It was our idea to use the barge to relieve some of the pressure on the manpower in our departments, that we wouldn't have to close down 6 blocks of beach. So unfortunately, this year that didn't come together regarding barge, but I think that we're leaning towards going back, hopefully, to a barge shoot in upcoming years.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions on that? Tony, did you want to say something?
Just if you needed to talk to me more about that later, I'd be available.
Thank you.
Okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. Little League lease, Mr. Abbott.
At long last, the Green Acres people did respond to the proposed lease agreement. As you know, there was an issue regarding the Little League and what we call the batting cage, which is a building that volunteers constructed. It had an approximate valuation of $400,000 and for which a bank loan was taken out. The city had entered into a 50-year lease. The Green Acres people took the position that that could not be, and they wanted it greatly reduced, I should say. The lease I submitted to them, they have approved, but with one major issue, in my mind at least, and that is the term. The Little League organization agreed to reduce their 50-year lease, which had about 40 years left, agreed to a 24-year remaining term. The DEP Green Acres program wants to make it only 10. I was speaking with Jessica Patterson at 10:04 today about the red line revision she sent me. Everything else in the lease I think is fine. Everything else in the lease, basically the Green Acres people and the Little League people there's been a meeting of the minds. And I said to her, look, we need more time than the 10 years because that was a condition that the Little League organization was adamant about. And I went back to her, I said, why don't we use this wording, can be extended for an additional term, not to be unreasonably withheld or not approved. She will go to her supervisors tomorrow. I might add, their regulations allow leases up to 25 years, so she said, well, no, not for when it's under $500,000. We don't apply it to that. But that's not how I read the regs. So the bottom line is we're about 98% done with this Little League lease with requiring Green Acres approval. But I don't think the Little League organization would accept 10 years remaining, in as much as they're still paying off a bank loan and all the effort and money that they put in for that batting cage. All their terms and conditions of that lease are acceptable to Green Acres. Minor changes, they didn't understand why we were calling it the Jerome Avenue Recreation Field and also the Sigmund Rim Recreation Facility, and I've told her we need that name in there. That's not the way it is on their list. But other than that, I hope they're going to be reasonable and they're going to have a 10 and 10 year extension. And if they're not, well then we'll have to discuss that further.
Okay. But did she give you a time frame?
Tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow? Good.
I told her, look, it's baseball season. Everybody wants to know, are we done?
Okay.
I mean,
Thank you.
the Phillies are in Clearwater, so let's get this done. They've only
Okay.
had it for about a half a year, so.
All right. We'll move, next item. Maury, you have...
Okay, yeah, I do, and,
Was
Go
that
ahead.
my turn for all,
No,
everything?
you're coming. Everything's on the agenda here. Not in... We're getting back to you.
Okay,
that was
'cause
just Little League.
we just had to touch that emergency appropriation for the bulkhead,
the
which
little
isn't
league.
on there. Okay. Sorry, thank you.
Whatever.
No, not Dunes, this is the one for Amherst Avenue, we're moving forward. I might as well do it now, Commissioner.
Go ahead, yes, please.
We met, Eddie, our city engineer, has declared it an emergency. I don't think it's a secret that it really is an emergency, inasmuch as a portion of Amherst Avenue has collapsed, and that where you have notified the property owner who's not taken any steps to correct that bulkhead. I'm not saying that issue is resolved one way or the other. What I am saying is that Eddie chime in to confirm, we're moving forward where it's a $50,000 allocation for emergency appropriation to repair the bulkhead and street. Want to amplify that a little bit?
Surely. I solicited quotes from two contractors. One was Coastal Marine, the other was K&G, who actually has a contract in the city now doing the repairs on the beach bulkheads. Coastal was $300, and I believe it was $320. It was originally $250 a foot, but that did not cover prevailing wage, and we
Was
would
that for
exceed.
bulkhead or repair?
That's for repair.
Just
Okay, that did not take into account that it was going to exceed the prevailing wage statement, or threshold, so they did resubmit, I'm sorry, it was $345 a foot after. K&G, I just got the text. They went and looked at it, they're in town, they said they would do it for $195 a foot. The benefit, so obviously, and they've done good work for us also. Coastal's done very good work for us. K&G has done good work. My recommendation is that we would go with K&G. We have two mechanisms now. One, we have this emergency declaration because that has to happen. But in addition, we are currently under a bulkhead contract with them. So should we choose to, and I believe the funding source is the same either way, we could do this as a change order to their existing contract.
Yeah, so,
And just so you know, we're looking at approximately 100 feet of repair. So we would be looking at $19,500 to do the repair for the sheathing. Then the city would would do the backfill, and then I have talked to Frank about the possibility of our guys doing the concrete work. So
do we need to approve this resolution at the meeting tonight?
yes, I would definitely.
We're
Yes.
trying to get this done before Memorial Day weekend. That's the game plan. And this is not a replacement bulkhead. This is just a repair. I know there was some thought about, let's just go with the new bulkhead, but we're really not at that point to be able to do it. As you know, we have a grant application in for over $3 million, and the game plan is really to try to build a brand-new bulkhead all along the entire Amherst waterfront if we get the funding from the state of New Jersey.
Right.
So-
And in addition, we have to determine what the look of the back bay bulkheads is going to be, the elevation we're going to look at, how we're going to address pedestrian passage there. So that was my recommendation, that we just do this repair. And it's a temporary repair, but it'll last for years. It's just, the intent is to seal up the rotted sheathing that is at the mud line right now, and that's what we're losing. We're losing debris at the mud line. This would repair the area at the mud line, 4 foot below, 4 foot above, plenty enough to make sure that we don't have soil migration again.
All right, Rosie, would you make sure that that resolution gets on the agenda for the public meeting? It is? Okay. Thank you.
Dude, I have a question. Are we then concluding that we own this bulkhead and that the responsibility to repair it is ours?
No, it's at this
So-
point, we've put who we believe is the owner on notice.
Okay.
Okay, they have to
So
respond
he's going to
us.
be assessed this charge down the road? Or we're going to fight that?
No, I don't want you to go on the wrong path here. That has not been determined yet. A lot of this bulkhead structure is on city property. Some of it is on private property. Who built it originally? We're pretty sure the government built it, not the private owners. We have not resolved that question yet. Our position is that by ordinance, the property owner is responsible. To this point, the property owner has not acknowledged that responsibility. We can't wait any longer. Every day it goes by with tides and rain, we lose more under there.
I understand that. So what we're saying that by putting him on notice, eventually he's going to have to pay, or pay some portion of this fix.
A more
Because
correct
once we
statement-
fix it,
Well,
then what impetus does he have to pay?
we have the right to lien his property for the emergency repair. It would be like the same as if we went in and repaired a sidewalk.
You have answered my question.
But I'm not telling you 100%.
As long as we
It's
have
his
the
obligation.
right to
We have the
lien,
right.
then I'm good with it.
At some point, there's going to have to be a survey done to see exactly
That is
where
true.
that property is. That has not been done yet.
Fine.
Okay? All right.
And Mayor, that will, should we be fortunate enough to get the grant, that will have to be part of that process. We will have to know who owns it at that time.
Absolutely. Okay. Scott? Scott?
Yes.
I apologize if I missed it when I was out, but I know we're talking about Amherst Avenue, sections around Jefferson, Madison, correct?
That is correct.
Now, there is, just so I know you're aware, but everybody else, there is a section, a 500-foot section of bulkhead that goes from a certain point down to Lamberti's that is city-owned. However, there is a 50 or 20, whatever it is, a long-term lease that Lamberti pays us $500 a year for, and it is in there, it is his responsibility to maintain and fix that bulkhead.
Tom, you're right.
Okay.
And I'm aware of it, although I don't know where we stand with the 25-year term. Plus, again, we have this grant application which may resolve all these issues. But for right now, we want to get Amherst Avenue fully secured.
Okay?
Now, I guess we will have to change the wording if you've now gotten your second quote, so that resolution number 70 states the right entity.
We now know, at the time this resolution was prepared, we did not have the second quote. Now we do.
K&G?
K&G at $195 a foot.
We do and should have a maximum not to exceed number, even though...
I would leave it doesn't really matter, we could leave that number for maximum not to exceed, but we're probably looking at a $20,000 repair
Okay,
now.
all right, okay.
We have, but it's not to exceed 50,000.
Right.
Right, and...
You don't know, once they get into it, you don't know.
Right, exactly, we don't know.
And Ed, you'll be sure to get us the necessary emergency declaration on your letterhead to us we have for our files,
I've
suspending the
I
bid
forwarded that.
Okay.
That's somewhere that came here.
for both that one and the other one, I assume we have to?
Well, it was emergency, declaring it an emergency. I will do a letter with K&G's quote and everything.
That's what we need, because I had this back a couple months ago, the auditors were doing some stuff on last year's, and it was one of our jobs was an emergency, and we did have your letter attached, and it's always best to have that there so we're not scrambling a
problem.
year later.
All right, guys. Maureen, your turn now.
Okay, it's my turn.
Your turn.
Thank you. At the specific request of Mr. Sewell, I was asked to reintroduce a resolution that I previously introduced in 2012, and I would like to, again, read it into the record. And it's related to comments that we make to the media. And the resolution states that all comments to the media and the public regarding public employees and businesses from a member of the Board of Commissioners must be reviewed and approved in writing by the city solicitor prior to being set forth. This policy aims at maintaining the highest professional and ethical standards by the Board of Commissioners while respecting the rights of all Margate city employees and citizens. And I'd like to put that up on tonight's meeting for vote, and I think it's very timely. I think Mr. Sewell's request is very timely in that we seem to be experiencing a higher than normal level of legal action regarding, things that we say randomly that maybe if the solicitor had reviewed, we could keep ourselves out of trouble, away from the threat, the continuing threat of legal action. It doesn't seem to me that without this, we're able to learn from our mistakes. So I ask that we put it on the formal meeting agenda and we can vote on it. That's all I have.
Okay. Tom, can you put that on the agenda for vote?
Sure.
Anything else? Maury?
Nope, that's all I had on that.
Scott?
Mayor, do you want to handle the DEP?
Sure, I'd love to. I had a phone call a couple days ago, actually, from Bill Dixon of DEP, who asked that he wanted to have a meeting with the Lieutenant Colonel of the Corps of Engineers regarding the Absecon Island project. So tomorrow, actually, at 10 o'clock in Longport, there will be a meeting of the four mayors, Atlantic City, Ventnor, Margate, and Longport. I don't know what the subject's going to be. It's coming from the Corps of Engineers. We're getting a good feel from DEP and all that, so we're hoping that something good for Margate comes out of this meeting. We'll report back as time allows. Did I miss anything, Scott? That's pretty much what it is.
Mike, can I, along those lines, we have a, when this came up, the last we discussed this topic, we had a recommendation from our business administrator that once we got back the information regarding our concerns from the DEP, that we would entertain putting out a request for proposals.
Maury, let me interrupt you. This thing was, once we received the Attorney General's opinion letter saying that their actions or executive superseded our ordinance, then Rich said we should then look into, he would support looking into retaining counsel to not challenge the Dunes project, but to analyze and critique the Attorney General's opinion.
That is correct.
That's what it was.
Okay. All right. And so I am in favor of that. I would like to do that. Does it cost us any money, Tom, to put out that RFP if Mike and Brenda are agreeable to it?
Well, I highly recommend you don't put out an RFP. I would actually ask that we get the names through Scott's help and maybe others, 2 or 3, you invite them in.
Okay.
And it will cost money.
Okay.
They'll come in for free, but then they'll say, hey, listen, for $5,000, we'll analyze it. For $10,000, hey, whatever they propose us.
Okay.
We negotiate it.
So are we good to try and get some names and have people come in?
If you have 2 votes.
Why don't you get some names?
Okay.
And present it the next meeting. In the
Okay.
meantime, it'll give me time to see what happens tomorrow.
I'm okay with that.
I just had one question, Mayor. I thought I had heard that tomorrow that the letter or correspondence from the state was saying that tomorrow the purpose was twofold, I thought. I might be wrong. One was, Margate's willingness to move forward in the, whatever you call it, handing over of the easements we own, and 2, the issue of drainage, and will our engineer work on it, work it up and do what he has to do with the state and or the Corps. So that's what I thought the purpose was tomorrow, or am I wrong?
Mr. Dixon didn't tell me the purpose of the meeting. He just wanted us there.
it sounds like-
I think it's more than that, but we'll find out tomorrow.
The question, it sounds to me like Tom's thinking that it's to move forward, and your hope is that there's going to be some discussion about whether or not we move forward.
When we were in Trenton, we made several requests of the DEP. The only thing that has been done is the Attorney General's letter. We had some other things that we were interested in, some concerns we had, and hopefully we'll be able to discuss some of them tomorrow, and we're waiting for the DEP to get back to us.
Mike, do you think we'll be able to discuss with them bulkheads, higher bulkheads in lieu of dunes, higher bulkheads and beach replenishment in lieu of dunes?
One of the things we asked for was consideration on the bayside bulkheads, and also maybe some grants or some help with bulkheads along the beach.
Okay, so
that is one of the-
bulkheads along the beach in lieu of dunes, because that's what the 1,600 people voted against. They didn't want the dunes. We didn't ask them how they felt about having bigger beaches, but they didn't want the dunes. And so everybody that I talk to seems to believe and feel that renewed bulkheads would do a better job and be less expensive than the dunes. And this is what I think we should be talking to these folks about.
We have mentioned that to them. We've discussed that with them.
Okay, so can you...
We'll see what they say tomorrow.
Okay, but again, this is not Putin's Russia. We are not, last I checked, we are not in a position where we have to be dictated to. And in that regard, it would be nice if I could tell the people that I talk to, you know what? We are fighting for what we think you voted for. Higher bulkheads, a larger beach, no dunes. That's what I want to be able to tell the people that I talk to.
Well, the people really...
Not that we're going and listening to how they're going to build these dunes and how high they're going to be and how wide they're going to be. That we have an alternative that we want to legitimately talk to you about.
Well, you're making an assumption that the people who voted against the dunes also voted for bulkheads. They didn't have that option, so that may or may not be true.
But if you talk to 10 people, Mike, a bulkhead that's a foot higher along all of our beaches...
I'm not disputing that.
They wouldn't tell you no.
I think everybody really is concerned about public safety, and we might have different views about how to protect the beaches and our homes, but I think it's public safety.
When I read Rich Deeney's report after you came back from that meeting, I left with the impression from that report that we were past the issue, not that we gave up, but the issue of whether or not we were going to have dunes was a done deal. That was not that we agreed to it, but that done and over. We're going to have dunes. Did I read Rich's letter wrong or his report wrong?
I would think that the DEP and the Corps of Engineers has been taking that position from day one.
So, Maury, my question is, I think you're still living in not fantasy land, but 3-4 months ago, that we may be able that we're in a position to keep fighting to stop these dunes when that is not the direction that our representatives are heading when they go to these meetings.
And again, in that regard, Tom, I believe we have an obligation to the people that voted to continue to fight. That we cannot just roll over because Governor Christie and his people say, certainly they're not demanding that Wildwood have the dunes. Why are we different? And I know Mike went out on a limb and wrote a letter. I don't know if he got an answer to that.
No answer.
Okay, Mike went out and wrote a letter and said, hey, why, if it's okay for Wildwood and you're not going to force them down their throats, why are you insisting that you're forcing them down our throats? And we got no answer. So I think we need to continue to push. My point is, we should not and cannot roll over.
Well, Maury, I think at this point, my hope is that Scott is wrong in that the executive order supersedes everything, and that we get these attorneys in here. Maybe one will step up and say, you know what, we think that we can challenge this or give us some strategy, some ideas that maybe Scott wasn't aware of because it's not his field of expertise. I don't know.
Well, and again...
Well, we've already discussed this. We're all going to get some names and move forward.
And yeah, we're going to do that. And all I'm saying is that before we agree to hand over any easements to these folks, we need to be satisfied that, we're getting something out of this deal, something that we want.
I will agree with that.
All right.
100%. Always have from day one.
We're in agreement.
Okay. Anything else? Anybody else?
Well, there's another item on here. Professional, Dave, you're going to handle that?
Yes, regarding the professional services contract award to Mike Barker, that's being done in response to the issue raised by Dan Gallagher on behalf of Marketplace Realty and the potential conflict of Mr. Abbott. Mr. Abbott and I reached out to Mike Barker, and he's willing to handle that matter to speak with Dan Gallagher at $175 an hour, not to exceed $10,000.
Whoa. And what is he going to do what's the matter? Is the matter simply that they want an apology, or are we going a lot deeper into the total subject? What are we doing?
Shouldn't we be discussing this in executive session, Scott?
I don't think so.
You always have the option not to discuss it in executive session. Here, I do have a conflict. My wife, my daughter, and my son hang their license in Marketplace, so I can't handle this for you. Dan Gallagher, the attorney, has demanded, in effect, an apology letter, and I think he also wanted attorney's fees. I'm not in a position to negotiate or work that out for the city.
Scott, can I just tell me if you
need Mr. Barker to do, because otherwise Gallagher has threatened to file a suit. Now, whether or not he's really going to file a suit or not, I don't know, but that's what he said he was going to do. So, Mr. Barker, who is familiar with the city and has helped us out in other situations, is a perfect attorney, highly regarded, and that all this is to do is to engage him, to let him try to reach out and get a resolution, get this thing resolved, if hopefully.
But is not, and again, maybe I'm missing something. Right. It seems to me that Dan was in here. He wrote us a letter. He's looking for an apology from Commissioner Taube. So instead of engaging someone at $175 an hour and up to $10,000, which he'll probably end up spending, why wouldn't we just extend the guy an apology? Why is that so hard? Brenda, this question is for you.
You know what, Maury, I actually spoke with somebody myself today, and he said that we should be discussing this in executive session. I think the people deserve to know what happened, and there should be an investigation. And that's all I'm saying. All right.
My comment is this, and I just want to throw it out there, that the issue of going into executive, and Scott, I know you're conflicted, but you can at least some general observations that you go into executive and legal situations because you're trying to protect and consider your strategy and things of that nature. But the question here is not so much strategy as to what we're doing, is are we retaining him strictly for the issue of dealing with the Gallagher letter and what his demands are? Or are we going into an investigation as to what happened, why the leases weren't signed, and that...
As I understood it, Dave, correct me where I'm wrong on this, we're going to engage Mr. Barker as the attorney to respond to that letter. Now, I'm not in a position to limit what he can or cannot do as he sees fit, representing the city's interests in responding to that letter. I have no problem this being public and a resolution to engage his services, period. We're not talking about strategy. We're not talking about right or wrong. We're talking about getting in a lawyer to replace me because I have a conflict here. That's it.
Okay.
And again, from where I sit, that's a frivolous waste of taxpayer money. Because in order to settle this, and maybe Commissioner Taube needs to go back and listen to the tapes of what she said, because I think she doesn't believe that she did anything wrong. And so instead of going back and listening to the tapes of what she said, she wants to lock her heels and fight with these people. So I'm going to try and help here. On behalf of myself, to Marketplace Realty and Dino's, I apologize. You guys are great businesses. You've done great things for the city of Margate, and I'm sorry that your names and your reputations have possibly been tarnished by things that were said. Now, the insinuations that were made were that there were side deals and that we didn't have anything in writing related to the boats and the tents and the umbrellas that
missing money.
donated, and missing money. And so this is what incensed the folks at Marketplace who have donated close to $100,000 worth of boats and umbrellas to the city. And so, Brenda, all you need to do is say, you know what? I apologize for I might have misspoke. And we have now saved a lot of time, a lot of money, and a lot of aggravation.
Yeah, well,
Boy, I'm not sure if everybody's aware, or not everybody, but at the request of Mayor Becker several weeks ago, he sent me an email, Rosie and I, he sent it to me, but it was really for Rosie and I, asking a series of roughly 6 or 7 questions regarding this entire issue from A to Z on the Beach Shack advertising matter. The initial authorization, the auction, the whole bit. A 2-page or a 3-page or a 2.5, I don't know what it is, Ro. Lengthy, I believe, and detailed report was provided to the mayor by the clerk's office. And that's why I understand why we're spending $10,000 to investigate something that we all know that nothing, Rich Dini said it, Lisa said it, nothing was done wrong, no missing money. We're talking about, read the report. And why are we paying somebody $10,000 for?
why, I think maybe this is going further than we really need to go at this point. I have, Mr. Barker, as Mr. Abbott said, is hired to replace Mr. Abbott to deal with Mr. Gallagher, who has filed a lawyer's letter. You'll have your 3 minutes, John. It's my 3 minutes now. I don't understand why. Where did the investigation come from?
I don't know. My question to you, Mike, did you read my? I'm sure you read it.
Every last word.
Are you? At least somewhat. Are you somewhat satisfied? Are you recognize or understand?
I don't think this is the place to do.
No, but you asked me to do. You asked me nothing that has nothing to do with legal. Or you asked me a series of 6 questions regarding what happened with the leases. And I did a 2-page report. Were you satisfied?
No, I was not. Now that you asked.
So do you think that there's
don't put words in my mouth. You asked me if I was satisfied with the report.
Do you think it requires an investigation?
You're going far afield of what this resolution is. Now you're getting into the words. Now you should be in executive session.
Can I just say that if we're going to pay Scott to do this, we're just pretty much taking the money that we're paying Scott and paying somebody else because there's conflict.
We need an attorney at this point, and I am in favor of
But
this
Mike,
resolution.
there's where I disagree. I don't think we need an attorney. Let Chief Wolfson handle it. What we need is an apology from Commissioner Taube. That's all we need, and it's done. All we need is Commissioner Taube to pick up the phone and apologize to the folks at Marketplace. That's all we need. Why are we hiring? As soon as we engage this attorney, in my opinion, we are going to spend the money. And it's our money.
Obviously, there will be an expenditure. I'm hoping that it's a very small expenditure.
Can I interject something here at this point, since I am involved in this as well? It sounds to me like there's really 2 issues here. At face value, from this resolution, we're going to hire an attorney with a limit of $10,000, which basically says to the attorney, and I say this because I'm married to one and have given birth to attorneys, that's a check for them. They're going to run that bill up. They're just going to do it. That's the way it is. And if that's the issue, if we're just dealing with the letter from Dan Gallagher, those 3 points, that should be pretty easy to solve. It sounds to me, though, that there's a secondary agenda here, and I don't mean that in a bad way, using the word agenda, that we're going to go through this whole investigation by this attorney.
Rosie, I have to interrupt you because, except from Tom, no one's ever mentioned investigation. No one that I've spoken to has mentioned
that's
investigation.
my point. My point, it sounds to me like there's an insinuation there.
From me?
From Ms.
From Commissioner Toby.
Yeah, she just said it.
That he would investigate what happened.
So it seems like we're just going over and over, and it's pointless to me, is my point. It's been answered, and I think even if the chief wants to ask Tom and I and Lisa or whatever, but it just seems like a lot of money, and I do live here, so I'm concerned about my taxes as well as everybody out there. So that's all I have to say. I think we need to be clear about what we're hiring this attorney for. That's the bottom line.
He's hired to resolve this issue.
Okay, that's different than answering that question. To respond.
Which issue, though, Mike? Is it the issue of the Gallagher letter?
Yeah.
Yeah, the issue of marketplace in the city.
Okay, that's different.
Right.
This is not executive.
To a vote.
I mean, I
Governing body makes a decision here. It's as simple as that. You can beat this to death for another hour if you feel like it.
Well, my point is this discussion. My counsel today is a solicitor and for 18 years, and he said we should be in executive session to even be talking about awarding this contract, and it just feels like we are saying more than we should.
I agree.
Have the discretion to go in executive session. But all this talk about limiting him or investigation, that's not it. He's going to replace me on this matter. That's essentially it. That's it. Because I can't deal with it.
That was my understanding also. Okay?
Replace you in this matter to do what? That's what I don't understand. I still am not clear, Mike. I'm not clear.
With all due respect to you, Tom, it's not up to you
I
to
know, but
understand.
I'm asking,
It's
but
for
the people,
governing
nobody
body.
knows.
Okay, so let me propose this. If we're hiring this attorney to answer the 3 questions that were put forth by Dan Gallagher, it should take him less than a day. So we'll authorize him for $1,000, not to exceed $1,000, not $10,000. He gets 1 day to interview Commissioner Taube and put together a response to the questions
Not
that
just
he
me,
asked.
all of us.
That's not reasonable, Mr. Bloomberg.
Oh, okay.
Okay. All right. So is that on the agenda?
No. I think that we should wait until our next meeting for this so that the public has a chance to listen and vet instead of putting it on tonight's agenda, Mike.
The public is listening.
No, well, there's a lot of people that aren't here that listen to the tapes and then might want to come in to our next meeting.
Okay. I would be very comfortable putting it on tonight's agenda.
And I would too.
Okay, so we're going to do that.
If I could just throw this out too, we might want to go into executive session next meeting with him, all of us, and with the exception, I don't think Scott can be there, but the chief and the 3 of us, to discuss exactly what we would like him to do for us.
Okay?
So we're going to, okay, just so I'm clear, we're going to award him the contract tonight for X amount of dollars, and then 2 weeks from now, we're going to ask him, tell him what we want him to do. Okay. So could someone make a motion and give me an idea of what we're voting for?
Scott, would you put it in some good words for us,
Guys,
please?
it's not on our 5 o'clock agenda anyway. It's not on there.
And it shouldn't be.
So
Because
it'll have to
just-
be in 2 weeks from now.
And that's
Why
that's
can't
how
we
it
add
should
it to
be.
the agenda?
Well, because, Mike, if you read the
Why, I'm
resolution...
asking Scott, I'm not
Okay.
asking.
Well, Scott, are you familiar with the resolution that we have that talks about placing items on the regular work meeting Or do we need to have, Rosie, can you find that so Scott can
You
review
have
it?
the ability, a majority of the governing body has the ability to have it on for the next regular meeting.
The next-
Maury, we
in
just,
half an hour.
Rosie, what did we just add to the agenda
And
from?
And the sustainable...
Unsustainable, we just did that tonight.
right, I think this is a more intense topic, Mike. That's all I'm saying. But I'm fine. If
Okay.
you guys want it on, that's fine.
All right, now, are there any, moving on, let's, we'll be here for a while tonight. We will do department reports. We will try and keep it as brief as we can, covering what we need to cover, please. Ed, you want to start?
I'll start from the back of my report. Those are the items that are currently under construction. The first item, and it's also an item that is on the 5 o'clock agenda, the 5 o'clock agenda, it is the emergency work that needs to be done at the Gladstone Avenue water tank. We have a pipe leak. Sprung a leak last week. Fortunately, the tank is out of service for painting. We did an emergency resolution, the declaration of emergency, and we're looking to award a contract to Garrison Enterprises for at their hourly rates, which was established or which were attached to the resolution, and not to exceed $40,000. They are due to come in tomorrow, provided everything goes well tonight. They will jackhammer up the concrete. The break is under the floor of the tank, of the base of the tank. At that point, once the area is exposed, we'll know better on what the actual cost is. The next one is the actual water tank painting. Contractor is on site and is sandblasting the interior in preparation of paint. That's moving along well. The beach bulkhead repairs by K&G, they're about 40% complete. As far as the road program, currently Douglas is done and base paved, just has to be top paved. Essex is ready to be base paved. Iroquois is 95% complete and is scheduled to be base paved next week along with Essex. Huntington is all the pipe work is done and we're 85% complete the concrete work, and Haverford is 90% complete. If we're fortunate and we get all the concrete work complete by the middle of next week, we should be able to get base paving on all these roads in a week to 2 weeks. The only one left at that point will be, what the heck, I forget which the last street. What's that?
The only one left would be Nassau, then, right?
Well, Nassau is the pipe work is currently about halfway done, and then there's one more street. I lost it, but there's one more street that needs to be done that we're doing the water main. What they'll do as soon as Nassau's done, all the crews will move to the one street so we can get, and then we're done this program for this year. The next program is Benson, Douglas, Exeter, Granville, Mansfield, and Marshall, those streets. We anticipate going to bid on April 24th for that program. We would open bids on the 21st. Provided everything's in order, we would award that contract and they would start construction in the fall on that next program. Let's see, we have the Benson Avenue water tank painting. The contractor has acknowledged in writing that they have to come back and repair, and that work will most likely be scheduled for the fall, at the same time that well number 10 is down. Police station emergency generator replacement, that project is complete. There is a change order on the agenda, and that is for, I believe it was $3,140.33. What that work is for is there were several areas in the building that when we opened up the panels, the electrical controls were not up to code. The change order price is very reasonable. The contractor was on site and was willing to proceed to bring everything up to code at their own risk until this change order was approved. They did a very good job, and I strongly recommend that we approve the change order. The price to do what they did was extremely low, so. Listen. I'm sorry, fire department, fire station 2, I apologize. I'm looking at the police emergency generator, that is complete also. Thank you, Tony. Okay, the road program, the 2014 road program, I spoke with Frank. I asked him to give me his list of streets that have the utility problems, so then we can come up with a list and get that program at least scheduled. Our hazard mitigation grant application, which is for a generator for this building, we're in the process of putting that together. It's due April 4th. This is something that we did a letter of intent for last year. Apparently, and there's no guarantees, but the number that was given to us was somewhere around $85,000 that is allocated to us. That would go a long way towards doing one of the generators. We need 2 generators here because we have 2 different services, but that would go a long way to doing the smaller of the 2 generators. And in speaking with Fred Verna, hopefully that process moves quickly because we're coming into this thunderstorm season, and if we lose power at this building, we'll have a problem with our telecommunications system, our IT system. So we're going to try to get that moving as quickly as possible. And let's see, a few other things. Municipal building upgrades, phase 1 for this building here, which is essentially HVAC related, mostly steam piping, steam valves. Hopefully within 2 weeks we'll get ready to go to bid on that. The intent is as soon as the boiler is taken down for the summer, we would be able to get that work done, with the majority of it actually being in the crawl space area. It will address control issues in the building, being able to control the heat more precisely, and we have some humidity issues also as a result of these leaking valves, so we need to get that done. The Washington Avenue Municipal Building repurposing, there's a meeting being scheduled for next week with FEMA. My team is working on revised cost estimates, which we've requested actually to increase our estimates. I had a meeting on site earlier, actually it was last week. We went through the scope of the project in more detail. The court has replied to their second review, or they've given us a reply to our reply to their comments. We're in good shape on everything, so we can proceed. I think the only question they really had was they didn't agree with where we located the witness stand, the witness chair. So we can accommodate what they're requesting. That's not a problem. And let's see, we're also for 2012 funding, Community Development Block Grant for our handicap access. We want to advertise on March 27th. I have the design done. It's Iroquois Avenue. So we want to put that out to bid, opening on April 9th, so that can be committed to contract in the time frame that they like that to happen. It's a good possibility. If materials are available, it can be done for this summer season, which is what we're going to attempt to do. Our 2013 grant was approved, and that was in the amount of $30,470. That's for one of these handicap access structures to be constructed on Frontenac Avenue. And our 2014 application was submitted on March 7th, and that was for a handicap access on Jefferson Avenue. We currently have gotten to the point now where we're starting to fill in the gaps. What we've tried to do is jump back and forth across town, north to south, east to west, and try to space them evenly. We're at the point now where we're almost at every other block. that we can do. There are some blocks, for example, Nassau, Mansfield, where we have concrete walls that we really can't do these. But for the most part, we're at the point now where we're starting to fill in between blocks. So we're getting pretty far along on our goal to get every street end to have a handicap access. And
Your 3 minutes are up, Ed.
One more thing, DOT, transportation, the NJDOT Transportation Trust Fund, they've put out a request for 2 type of grant applications. One is Alternatives Program, and I'm still trying to decipher what's applicable there, and the other is the Safe Routes to Schools. I will, for the next meeting, have a recommendation on possible projects that we can get funded by DOT. And unofficially, I've been given an indication, and I think I reported this previously, that we will get a state aid road this year. I just don't know which one it is.
Take a breath. Take a breath. Did you have something to say, Maureen?
No.
Okay. Tony?
Mayor and Commissioners, everything is wonderful in the fire department. Thank you.
Way to go, Tony.
We all received a compliment on your department, and I'm sorry I didn't bring it with me to read, but you saw it. Thank you.
Lisa?
The only thing I want to point out, besides our budget hearing, is at 5 o'clock, and Leon Costello is here to discuss that further with you. And I know on the agenda is the introduction of the ordinance providing for free veterans badges. I mean, this is a template of what the badges will look like, and once we hear back from Ventnor, we will proceed with ordering them. We've been discussing how the procedure will take place, and Bill Walsh is, I'm in communication with him. So once we know if Ventnor is on board, we will proceed with everything. That's all I have.
Lisa, it's nice we're doing something special for the veterans. I thought you would probably give them the same badge, but that's nice. Thank you.
That's cool. Thank you. Do I call you chief or business?
Whatever you wish.
Dave?
That's even better. From the police department standpoint, during the month of April, we got notification today from the State Department of Transportation, Highway Traffic Safety, we will be participating in an aggressive distracted driver campaign throughout the whole month, so you'll see extra patrols out and probably a lot of stoppage. So that's on the police department side, everything's good there. And as the temporary assistant business administrator, everything's good.
Okay.
Very briefly, and I mean briefly, our Coastal Coalition met today again, and that's a coalition of the Atlantic and Cape May County shore towns that have been dealing with various issues involving the hurricane and flood prevention. And the issue that is near and dear to my heart is bulkheads and elevations of bulkheads. And so I asked the question of the various towns that were there, what do your ordinances require? As you know, we recently increased the elevation because we used 1988 datum, which means on the ocean side, 13 feet above mean sea level, and on the bay side, 7.5 feet. We are concerned, at least I know I'm concerned, and I know I've talked to at least Maury one time, and Mayor, I think maybe, where some of these street ends, as we replace them, are going to be extremely high wall of bulkhead, maybe 7 feet above grade. Now, Longport, they're going through this now. They're still debating it. I think they're going to go with an 11-foot elevation. Some of the towns have none. They don't have them. But it was important that we did, because it does affect our V-zone designations, particularly right on the waterfront, that you have elevated bulkheads. So I just throw this out there that maybe we want to look at maybe not being 13 feet on the ocean side on the street ends. Somebody said to me, why would you even care? Well, because public safety, the ability to see what's going on between our street ends, and if and when they ever do build these dunes, and if they're there, or even if they're not there. The ability for people just to see what's going on, and see what's going on with their neighbors or kids in the water or whatever. And I'm concerned as an avid beachgoer, and I know we're all concerned about this, do we really want to have oceanside bulkheads that are above our heads? I don't know. And does it really afford you that much more protection? Stu Farrell did make a comment. Eddie, why don't you chime in on that?
It's interesting, Scott, because these are the plans for the handicap cut-through on Iroquois. And at 13 on 88 Datum, that cut-through is almost 7.5 feet high. So your point is well taken. So perhaps we should look at, we have varying V-zone elevations. The 13 to 88 was a quick way to raise the bulkheads. In hindsight, maybe we need to look at, we do have varying V-zone elevations on our beaches now. Okay, 13 being the most conservative. There are some that are lower, and perhaps maybe we don't have a consistent elevation, the whole bulkhead, the whole length of the city. Maybe we do it relative to the V-zone elevations on the maps.
If you walk on the beach, you'll see many of the private property owners have 13 or 12 in front of them, and they want that. But maybe we should be looking at possibly adjusting this. Because like Eddie says, you can have a 7.5 foot high cap on, which street's that one, Iroquois?
Iroquois.
And again, well, then some streets it won't be, like Fredericksburg, it won't be 7.5 feet, because Fredericksburg is one of our highest streets. So that grade, instead of being at 7, that grade's probably 9 or 10.
Exactly.
If you understand the difference, how it affects the height of your bulkhead. It's something we need to really take another look at.
Okay. Well, why don't you do that and come back with a recommendation?
I will do that.
We kind of are, but
Yeah.
I'd like the three of you, everybody
Mayor,
else,
can I-
look at this and think about it.
Roger?
Can I contribute on this? A couple meetings ago, the commissioners asked me to communicate to the planning board that they should embark right away on a study of, at the time you were talking about bayfront bulkheads. And I've been in touch with the chairman, and I think at the meeting next week, the chairman is going to appoint a committee to pursue hiring a planning consultant subject to funding from the Jim Ritala funding or some other source to look at bayfront bulkhead heights, decks, grades, accessory buildings, etc. And I think that study should be expanded to include beachfront bulkheads and the points that Ed and Scott are bringing up now as part of just an overall bulkhead waterfront study. And if, with your permission, I'll include that in the committee deliberations. What the committee is going to be doing is putting together the outlines of what the study would be and endeavoring to find a consultant, a planning consultant, to do that. So I think that this becomes part of that overall effort through the planning board. And it should be done as a concentrated study by planners with an engineering background.
Okay.
That's all I have. That's it.
All right. Tom?
I'm sorry. Oh, me? Sorry. I was just, I wanted, Scott, between meetings, if you could take a look, are we putting the resolution on, we said, for the Barker contract?
Tom, I thought it was on there.
Okay.
For final.
No, the reason I ask is because according to our ordinance and law, we don't have the required pay-to-play certifications on file, which is required prior to awarding a contract. And I just want to be clear, can we wait the 2 weeks to get the proper and legal documentation on file before awarding and passing the resolution?
Let me just throw this out there. We've already retained them. Remember, we've retained that law firm to help us with the policy and procedures manual. So wouldn't that paperwork have been filled out already?
They were retained, I believe, last year, and I believe it was under a separate contract, but not my call.
Tom, I kind of know what your feel is on this, but don't we have the resolution subject to compliance with those requirements?
No, unfortunately, the way our thing states, it says that the professional entity shall have, the certification required hereunder shall be provided, made prior to execution of the contract and the resolution.
Right, but we're not signing the contract. We're having a resolution that authorizes it, subject to those items.
If you're okay with that.
I think, I don't know how it would not be that way.
How it would not be that way?
Yeah, I mean, doesn't the governing body have to agree on who they're hiring first before that law firm submits all that documentation?
No. The way it works is proposals are submitted, and then the resolution, when you read it, I don't have one in front of me, always states that the contract is on file and the pay-to-play paperwork has been submitted in accordance with the proposal. But if you're okay with it, it's
now,
not...
Tom, I think it's the other way around. I think it's you authorize the firm has to supply the documentation that's necessary.
Okay.
And then you have your contract.
Okay. All right.
Because the law firm, you would never know which law firm it was. It could be competing firms. It could be different opinions as to who to hire. You'd never... So they have them all submitted in before...
What they all do in their proposals with RFP, they submit it with their proposals prior to the contract being awarded. But if you're okay with it, I'm fine.
I think we need to move forward on this, Tom, and I am okay with it.
Anything else, Tom?
No, good.
Roger?
No, everything's fine. We're extremely busy. The zoning department, the yard sale advertisements will start to appear next week for 3 or 4 weeks, I think 4 weeks. And we're on schedule with all of that. That's it.
Thank you, Roger. Jim?
Where's Roger's zoning department? I love your zoning department. How many people you got working there? I was thinking about making a proposal on the board for proposal or a performance for bonding on demolition of structures. We've had a complaint this week about a home was demoed, and 5 people have come in and had some kind of an issue with the tear down affected their property. But we have no means in our ordinance. We used to have a bond, but we got it taken away when the state took the licensing of contractors away. We used to have the contractors through the city. But if we decide to do it on an ordinance, we could require something like a $5,000 to $10,000 of a performance bond on any demolition of a property that would have to be inspected, and if there was any complaints that came through, then they could use the money to help offset any cost. We're getting a little bit of a flack from the contractor who tore the home down that he preferred not to do anything because he felt that most of the damages were old or non-existent. But I think we would need to think about how we could proceed with some kind of performance bond.
Hey, Jim, does that open us up to more or less being the referee in disputes between neighbors and or contractors and homeowners? If we're holding this bond now, my fear would be that we're in constant litigation related to just what you just said. This guy thinks that maybe it was, how do we prove it? Is it going to tie up a lot of resources that maybe we don't have? Scott, what do you think?
Well, I know that this is a very common scenario where somebody either builds, they put piling in, they do demolition work, and now the guy next door wants all the cracks that have been in his home for 20 years fixed. If we have existed up to this date without that bonding requirement. And I think really the bonding requirement would be for city property that's damaged, not for private property that's next door or whatever. But, Jimmy, show me what you're talking about. Maybe other towns are doing this. Maybe there's something going on I'm not aware of. But my first reaction would be, you're right, Maury. I mean, now we're going to be a referee. They're all going to make a claim. They want everybody's going to go after the money. And I don't want to see the city get in that position where we have to spend money to fight over who gets a piece of that bond. But let's take a look at it.
Okay.
Well, the other option we would, and I don't know if we can do this legally, is make them provide to us an insurance certificate that identifies that they have the proper insurance for.
Don't they do that now?
No. They only give us a copy of the permit and their license. So
I think at the minimum we should do that, because I happen to be aware of 2 of the complaints that Jim has for their Osborne. Yeah.
Jim, why don't you put something together for Scott's review, okay? All right. Anything else, Jim?
I think that's enough.
All right. Maureen?
Like Ed said, we're
moving forward with the courtroom. We were waiting for the revisions to come through, so that's a go. And then the next thing is to put the fee ordinance schedule on for 2 weeks, that we're raising the prices for our ordinance so we can move along with that. And other than that, everything's, pretty good. The sun's coming out, so people are getting a little testy coming.
You think?
But other than that, we're good.
Okay, thanks. Brenda, do you have anything?
No, welcome spring. Oh, and the newsletters are hot off the press, so everybody grab one, and unless you already get them electronically.
Maury, you have anything?
Yeah, I have one thing. I want to thank Ed Wahlberg and his firm for the excellent job that they do for the city of Margate City. Recently, we got an executive summary from you, which was really, really very thorough and very detailed, and it helped me understand all the things that you guys do for us. So I wanted to say, year in and year out, thank you.
I appreciate it.
That's all I have.
Thank you. I have nothing. We will open for public comment. 3 minutes on anything that was discussed today.
22 West Drive. Mayor, why don't you put your civility philosophy into effect and have a resolution passed 2-1 extending an apology by resolution and by publication in the Current to Marketplace Realty and Gigi and save $10,000 of taxpayers' money. Is that civil enough for you, Mayor? Does that add up to you? That's a question, Mayor. Are you there?
That's a very interesting idea, John.
Well, let's pass it. Let's get that resolution tonight and vote on it. You can't straddle the fence and be addled and refuse to deal with this question. Address it like a man. Address it like a man. Prove your civility, Mayor. Let's get that resolution tonight that we apologize to Gigi and Marketplace. This isn't rocket science. This isn't brain surgery, for God's sake. Apologize to the woman. No big thing. But shifting gears, apparently the city clerk doesn't even read his own brother's words, and he's on the Dune bandwagon. But let me straighten you out, Mayor. What Russo is talking about in today's paper about that seawall, i.e. Master Jetty, would greatly benefit Margate, Ventnor, and Atlantic City. Let's get behind the mayor of Longport's request for a master jetty. Can you do that, Mayor? Can you remember that by tomorrow, baby?
Call me in the morning and remind me.
I better. You might be on that elevator and get that dizziness.
I take that back, John.
You better, Mayor, because we need somebody who understands what's going on with the DEP. The DEP can't tell you've got to put dunes up, Mayor, when he gives a waiver to Wildwood and only half of Ventnor have dunes. So my question to you is, they can quote that statute. They can quote NJSA, whatever they want to quote. But Mayor, the bottom line is that federal law requires equal protection under the law. And if they're applying that law in a discriminatory manner, or they're interpreting it in a discriminatory manner, it becomes void for very solicitor. Let's get on the stick. Call that statute what it is, a joke. It's not being uniformly applied, and it's going to create a situation which the voters have made clear. No dunes. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, John. Anyone else?
Steve, the sound is better, isn't it?
Yes, thank you for saying that. Steve Altman, 9003 Amherst Avenue, Margate. Question, Mr. Becker, about if the city policy, if you do pass something about city policy as suggested in the discussion, and a document is presented to the solicitor for his approval before being given to the press or the public, and he approves the document, and subsequently there's a lawsuit, does our insurance cover that situation if following this policy should it occur?
I would think so, wouldn't it, Scott? We're putting you on the spot tonight.
Listen,
Anybody can sue anybody for anything.
your point is very, very well taken.
Thank you.
I mean, of course, anybody can get sued about anything. Do I really think that a city solicitor, I should be the grand censor of the 3 elected officials as to everything they say to anybody at any time, anywhere? I don't know of any town or city in the country that does that. So it would be a first. And I know Commissioner Blumberg is serious about this.
But it's pretty specific. It's pretty specific.
Well, I think you're aiming at that. I know Atlantic City has it for employees, but they don't have it for the elected officials. So I'd have to see another town that maybe has such an ordinance to really give you an opinion. But my initial reaction is I wouldn't want to do that. But, it's up to the governing body.
Changing gears for a moment, I would like to ask, I know in Scandinavia there are bulkhead attachments that can be elevated in the event of a storm. Has anyone looked into whether something like that might be useful on the bay or on the ocean side?
Not real, no. At this point, we haven't. My first impression just would be the cost effectiveness of it, but it's a good idea.
Oh, I got 2 today. 2 good ideas. I'll go for 3. Since Mrs. Taube mentioned the sound is improving, I guess I can mention something about the sound. The draperies really do help. I have to compliment you all on just closing the draperies. We can hear just about everything being said. I still suggest that baffles in this room would make it even better, and maybe Mr. Sewell wouldn't have to yell so loud, because that actually hurt my ears. There are some issues of quality of life that weren't discussed, if you'll give me just a quick moment. Things like, as I've discussed in the past, pedestrian cooperation with traffic and so on, and snow removal. We have a lot of properties where people don't remove their snow. There is a section in the code 242-2 that says the city will clean up those sidewalks and charge people for the snow removal. I'm going to suggest to the city a couple of things, if I may. We have that wonderful calendar, which is, I use it all the time, and perhaps some aspect of the calendar could be used for informing people, generally speaking, about some of our code that they're responsible for that isn't being enforced or that they're not following. As
You're 3 for 3, Steve. I agree with you. That's a very
I'm
good
3
idea.
for 3 today.
Yes,
Thank
you are.
Thank you. So the draperies are helpful, and I suggest either the calendar or the water bill insertions would be a great way to continue. And I must say to the chief, people really are slowing down and stopping as I'm trying to cross streets when I'm preambulating. So, and I know his force is really truncated during the winter, so I think it's the public information that we're doing. And I think that if we find better ways to communicate with the community at large, we're better off.
Thank you.
I thank you all.
Thank
3 for 3.
All right.
Sharon Simon, 424 North Thurlow Avenue. There is an opinion letter, of course mine was in there, but I'm not going to refer to that one right now. It's entitled, Remember the Lessons Ann Taught Us, and it was written by Steve Warner. And I know Ann was a good friend of both the mayor and Commissioner Taube. And I just want to read this little section. Ann taught us that citizens can make a difference in city government. We must stay involved and vigilant. Spending other people's money is easy. Earning money to pay taxes is hard. Fiscal responsibility is the most important job of elected officials. So, having said that, I understand your concern, Solicitor Abbott. That shouldn't be your job to go over everything that somebody says. However, no other town right now has a situation where we have, where Commissioner Tauby continues to say things publicly about employees and about other things. A lot has to do with the Hiltner situation. We're in a whistleblower suit, increasing the settlement, if we ever get there, and increasing the cost of that attorney, and various other things, and her recent decisions to fire 4 Public Works employees and hire back 3, probably another lawsuit coming our way. I think in most cases, commissioners and the mayors of towns know that they have a solicitor for that purpose, and when they're going to put something out in public that could potentially create an issue, they consult with the solicitor before they do that. What we have here is a situation where Commissioner Tauby does not do that, and as a result, then we have to pay lawyers or pay you extra money because we're already in a legal situation. So, the conflict here isn't you. You initially identified yourself as having a conflict here. The true conflict is Commissioner Tauby, her personal interest and feelings that she shouldn't apologize versus what's best for the taxpayers in the city of Margate. I agree with the suggestion that Mayor Becker is our mayor and that he could apologize on behalf of the city if Dan Gallagher would be willing to take that apology. And, if Commissioner Tauby doesn't feel that way, she certainly can hire her own attorney at her own expense to fight this. But Rosie Freed was very on point, although, Mayor, you poo-pooed her. And there are 2 issues here, okay? Commissioner Tauby specifically said, get the attorney, there's some wrongdoing. The wrongdoing is not legal right now. It's an investigation. It's already been done, but we could do it again and again and again. We can have the chief, we can have whomever we want if there's wrongdoing. The conflict is, I'm going to finish my sentence just like everybody else did. The conflict has to do with a lawsuit. And all they're asking for is the answer, I understand, to 3 questions and for an apology. So Commissioner Tauby is choosing to spend taxpayer money to get an apology, and then she wants to investigate it. So you want to investigate it? You don't need a lawyer. You got Chief Wolfson. He's the BA, he's the chief, he probably does a lot of other things. Investigate the wrongdoing, and if the wrongdoing has to do with city employees, then you deal with it. But this is a conflict. This is a citizen, a business person, feels that you have negatively shown them in the public. That's their feeling. They have a right to that feeling, and you should apologize. But if you're not going to,
Did you finish
hire
that
your own
sentence?
lawyer.
Have you finished the sentence?
No, I'm still going. And Mayor Becker, you and Lori Blumberg could vote that if she's going to have a lawyer, she can pay for it herself. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Steve Warner, 103 North Sumner. I'm glad you liked my letter, Sharon. I encourage everyone to read it. And I think the most important thing that was said in there is that spending other people's money is easy. Earning money to pay taxes is hard. Okay, I agree with that. I know everybody hasn't read the letter, but I'm glad you liked it. I'll just make a couple of comments. Number one, I don't think the city should be coward. I don't know the exact word. Just because somebody threatens to sue you, you just don't run and hide from that. Okay, you just don't. You have to take it, especially a city. And what else was I going to say? I can't. I'm having a senior moment. That was the second thing I was going to say, and maybe forget the first thing. Okay, now I remember. Concerning this beach advertisement or what have you, I've been in business 40 years here in Margate. It's a great place to be in business. I'm of the opinion that if you say you're going to do something, and you, let's say, put a 20% down payment on something, that's an agreement that you're going to pay, all right? Whether you sign a contract or not, you put down that 20%, that means you're going to pay. And then you don't pay, all right, and you don't write a letter or something, and you get the services for 3 years, okay, without paying, and then after you've gotten the services for 3 years, well, I didn't want to pay, I didn't want it, okay? And let's get our, it's great that you're generous, that's wonderful, that's one item, but here's another item, and this other item is something that you've entered into an agreement by the fact that you've put down the 20%, you've agreed to it, all right, and they haven't lived up to it, and now the city's supposed to apologize for that? I don't think so. And this is business, and if you want to get emotional about it, you can emotionally, apologize, but as far as a business person, no, you entered into a business agreement and you haven't lived up to it, and the city certainly doesn't owe those people an apology. And that's all.
Anyone else?
Richard Miskowski, 9000 Winchester Avenue. Steve said about the same thing that I was thinking about as I sat there and heard all the commotion. And it's been a series of misfortune that people doing good things, checking the records and what was paid and where the money was, where the money's going, that this all happened. And I agree with Steve as far as the contract is carried on. Could be a verbal contract. If one person paid all the money and the other people didn't pay the rest of the money, shouldn't they be obligated? They had the advertisement up there. So really the other two people are at fault too for not completing the deal. I don't blame Commissioner Torby for putting it out. She was checking the books and there's money missing. The big mistake was not contacting maybe the people who were involved and say, well, did you pay the remainder of the money? And if they would have said yes, then, then the money is missing. There's not that much, even though the administrator found out that all the money that they got was deposited. So there's a mistake made. It's an honest mistake. I think all of you are supposed to be honest people. We elected you, we put you in office, and we assume that you're honest. So I think it's a series of honest mistakes being made, and everything I think was blown out of proportion. And I think when they contacted, when Marketplace contacted, said, well, this is what the situation was, it could have been resolved right then and there and say, well, we just didn't know where the money was because we assumed you would have paid your obligation. And it's gotten so out of hand that now it's, it becomes a political thing, it becomes a personal thing, people attacking each other. I mean, there are plenty of attacks going on in this. It's to sit back and listen to the way everything is being done and people yelling at each other. I don't blame people for not coming to the meetings. I mean, it's known that it's sometimes chaotic here and people just getting out of hand. And it is really a shame that we have to sit back and hear all the charges and everything rather than just come up and express your opinion. And that's what it's supposed to be. And I come up here and I'm expressing my opinion. I'm sorry for all the people who made the mistakes. But we all make mistakes and we don't know. Most of you were new in taking the office. And so you're in a learning process where you learn all the time. So I just think it's an unfortunate situation that this came to this part where it's all legal business and people are going to sue each other and so on. And I look at it as an honest mistake where both sides, the people who did not pay the full amount, And they don't even say that, well, we did have the advertisement, here's the difference in the money. They're not doing that. So I don't know what the resolution is. I'm not, a lawyer. I don't know what the ramifications are or anything. But I think we should all be a little bit concerned, and we should give way and see what happens. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Is there a motion to close public comment?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Blumberg?
Yes.
Staub?
Yes.
Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll make that motion.
And I'll second.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Blumberg?
Yes.
Staub?
Yes.
We will take a very short break and commence our regular meeting.